Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Augusta Fisher Smallshaw, 1993, Part 1. This was originally published as Smallshaw Family Memories Collection, or SFMC number 37, published on July 4th, 1999. This was an interview conducted by my sister Patricia A. Ray, M.D., and my mother, Ruth Smallshaw Ray. Patricia Ray. Peter, now we're in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. It's September 1st, 1993. We're at Grandma Smallshaw's house in her kitchen with Grandma Smallshaw, your mother Ruth, and your sister Patricia. Grandma's finishing up her lunch, and we're going to ask her some questions. Grandma, we're taping for Peter. Oh, he'll like that. Do you want to talk a little bit? No, not now. No? Can you tell us anything about your mother? Yes, my mother was a real extrovert. She would have made a wonderful actress. Very frivolous and outgoing. My dad was quite a few years older than her. He was tall, dark, and quiet, very quiet. He just adored Mother. Did you know your sister Olive when you were growing up? Yes, we always called her Cousin Olive. Ruth Ray. Who were your mother's sisters? Your mother had some sisters, or was she an only child? Susan was my grandmother, Susan Barham. Annie was her youngest child, and she was the same age as Mother. They were brought up together. Mother used to talk a lot about her Aunt Annie. Who were the other relatives? So your mother had one sister, Susan? I guess so. They were brought up in Barnet, about 20 miles out of London. Mother and Dad went to visit Susan before we came to this country, Canada. She knew that she would not see her daughter Julia again, and she cried and cried and cried. I was just a little girl. But you remember that? Sure. Did you ever see your grandmother again? Yes, when I got married and took the business course and worked and went back to England and visited Grandma. She was still alive then? Sure. So you had grown up a lot in between? Sure. Your grandmother raised Aunt Olive? Yes. She wanted to come to Canada with Mother and Dad and us 3 kids. We 3 kids? With us? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Is Olive older than Celia? Olive? Julia was her mother. That's right. Have you got any peaches sliced? We all went to say goodbye. My dad was a very wonderful person. Canada was such a faraway place. No flying then. We came on a boat. 10 days on the water. I remember as a little girl, I was 5 or 6. My brother was only 2. My sister was 15 months older than me. We'd go downstairs and sleep and get up and go on the deck. Nothing but water, 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 days after days. Eventually, as we were getting nearer to Canada, the seagulls came. We were so happy to see something in connection with land. I bet. Where did you land? We went to Montreal. Was that the first place that you landed? We went down the St. Lawrence River, went to Montreal. Then we went from Montreal to Quebec. By water? Oh yes, still on the boat. Although Alfred was 2 years younger than me, we were always very close. Lovely person. Then how did you get from Quebec to Saskatchewan? It wasn't called Saskatchewan yet, right? Train. It took a long time, eh? Oh, horrible. It seemed like we were living for years on the train. You could get 160 acres, more or less free, for $10. The $10 was the patent. So how much land did your father get? 160 acres, and he wasn't a farmer. He was a professional soldier. We came to Saskatchewan, and I remember he said, "Now, Mother, see if you can develop this." Mother was much younger than Dad. Did they get along pretty well? Oh, he just adored Mother. Mother was the opposite. She was a real actress. She could mimic anybody. She could entertain a whole room full of people. Did she entertain you when you were a child? Oh, absolutely. The whole family. and Dad was so quiet, quite a bit older than her, tall and dark. They adored one another. Well, what was his name? Herbert Shadrach Fisher. Was he disappointed when he got here? I was too young to know anything about that. But your mother missed England. Well, she had so many friends there. She was a very friendly person. Do you remember what the farm looked like? Yeah, damn lonesome. We had to walk 3 miles to school. Grass that high. 3 miles to school when you were a little kid? Yeah. It is September 1st, 1993. We're still in the kitchen here in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, talking with Grandma Smallshaw. The grass was about 2 feet high. You said there were grass fires in Montana that you could see. It was very dry, I remember as a little girl. Dad saw these 2 lights way down in Montana, and he knew the whole country was just like a tinder. These fires would come up and people sleeping in tents. The tents would burn and them as well. Dad and another man went around to the homesteads and woke people up that a prairie fire was coming up from the United States. Were you living in a tent then? Mother and Dad came to Regina, Lumsden, and Craven. Craven was the end of the line. Freight just came as far as Lumsden. Mother and Dad sat in the front seat with my brother. My sister and I were in the back. The front seat of a wagon drawn by horses. That's how you arrived here? The country was being surveyed, and our piece of land was 8 miles north of Craven. Dad took us and everything we owned up there and pitched 2 tents. There were some people who had been in Canada quite a while, and the name was Fitzpatrick. It was May, still quite cold. These people said, "It's too cold for you and the little children to sleep out in a tent. You better come and board with us." We did. Did they have a house? Oh yes, they were quite established. We went and stayed with the Fitzpatricks. My little brother had inflammation of the bowels. He couldn't keep anything in his stomach except the whites of eggs. I discovered since that there's not much nourishment in the whites of eggs. I was just a little girl. Were there Indians living around there? Oh yes, they camped along the lake. Our homestead was about 3 or 4 miles from the lake. Us little kids used to go down to the lake and see where the Indians had been camping and left some dirty rags. Were they friendly? Oh yes, very friendly. We were afraid of them because Mother and Dad told us not to associate with them. That's where Regina Beach is now. Long time ago. That is a long time ago. So did you mostly play with your brother and sister when you grew up? Yes, when there's 2 kids, it's kind of flat. But when there's 3, you can play hide and seek. And lots of games. This is 90 years ago. They're all gone. Everyone's passed on but me. Dad had money and got lumber from Craven and built a house with a big front room and 2 bedrooms. A long time ago. Did you share a room with your brother and sister? I guess we did. There were 5 of us, very happy. Did you grow your own fruits and vegetables? Oh yes. My dad was a good worker and a good farmer. When we first got there, it was just prairie. He got a man to dig a well 40 feet deep. It cost Dad $40, I remember. We had a tripod put up and a rope went down, and we'd pull up the water. Was it good water? Very good water. Lovely water. Hard. A lot of underground rivers. So you didn't have any plumbing then? No, absolutely not. It was a very happy family. Dad was a good disciplinarian. We had to be very respectful. Dad adored Mother. Did he hire people to farm the land for him? He rented it out. They wanted to get the country settled. The rule was you could get this 160 acres of land, and you had to have so many acres broken. Of course, Dad didn't have any implements or anything. He wasn't a farmer. He had it rented. We got 1/3. Craven at that time had a grist mill. Dad would get a bag of flour and a bag of shorts and a bag of bran. That did our family for a year. Did you have any animals like horses or cows? Mother couldn't drink tea without milk in it, so the first thing Dad did was to buy a cow and a buggy and a horse so that we could drive to Craven. So Craven was the closest town? Yeah, we had to go down a very steep hill. It's so changed now, you'd never know it. Going down the hill, Mother would hang on and say, "You tipped me out! You tipped me out! I don't care about myself, but I was thinking about my baby at home." Ha 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 ha. She was thinking of herself. Her baby was Alfred. Alfred had a song that he sang about the cow. This is Ruth Ray speaking. We had a cow and her name was something. Lubba gubba ga ga ga. What was that song? Oh yes, Alfred was quite a dreamer. As a young boy, Mother adored him. She wanted boys, boys, boys. She just had 2 girls, and eventually Alfred came along. She adored him. He sat on the roof of the summer kitchen, on the edge. I remember you could buy a nice little knife with a bone handle for 25 cents. Alfred sat on the roof with his legs hanging over. He was singing to himself. Flubba gubba ga ga ga. That was his song. We had a cow and we named her Mary. Dad got a milking cow right away. Did you ever milk the cow? Yes, and I hated it. Mother didn't mind. Mother had a fallen uterus, and it was one thing she could do sitting down. I hated it because I didn't like the smell of the cow. How old was she when she had the fallen uterus? I think it was when Alfred was born. Eventually she had an operation. Did she have a hysterectomy? Yeah, they didn't know much about hysterectomies at that time. Eventually she had one. It was too bad she didn't have it a long time before. To be continued. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Augusta Fisher Smallshaw, 1993, Part 1. Good luck to you with your efforts in family history if this interests you. Finding, preserving, and sharing old letters, diaries, and photographs, and interviewing elderly relatives while they're alive. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.